Hey, 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 family. This is Courtney Michelle, your Renaissance Belle. Doing something a little different. As you can see, I have a special guest. I wanted to do something special because, you know, he started me on my journey, and I think a lot of people don't really know him. And I have been blessed to get to know him a little bit more. And he has surprised me with his humor and the gift of gab. So let's talk about him. It is Lapeef, JR.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we gonna use those? Are we doing that tonight?
Hey, why not?
Why not? Okay. So I wanted to bring you on because I wanted to talk to you a little bit more. I think no one really knows you. Like you're just like the man hidden. So I wanted to talk to you to so people can get to know you a little bit more.
Okay, let's do it.
So let's do it. Let's dig a little deeper. So I told you when I started, I was a complete fan. I'm not sure how I got into, you know, um, the channel, but when I did, I just loved it. And I was like, well, first of all, what in the world is a Lapeef?
Is that a question for me?
What is Lapeef? It's an interesting name.
So Lapeef is my middle name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a name. Growing up, I hated the name. I mean, just sound funny. Lapeef,
Mm-hmm.
Peef. You know what is it? It wasn't a regular middle name. But how I embraced it was actually Lapeef is a brand as well. It's my clothing brand. So it
Mm-hmm.
started off as Free Fall Clothing, and then I found out that Free Fall Clothing was trademarked. So that was one of the failures that I won't say failure, but it's a lesson learned. If you do start a business, make sure that you trademark in the beginning and then do the business. So
Okay.
what I did was I did the business
Yeah.
first, and then I tried to trademark. That was taken, and so I needed another name. And then Lapeef popped in my head, and I said, you know what? I'm going to embrace the name. So it took years later, me as an adult, to want to embrace that name. So Lapeef um, became the brand.
Okay.
It was a clothing brand, and so what I wanted to do was I wanted to do a lot of things up under that name. I want to kind of have like an umbrella. So the podcast was actually a vision. And I'm
Yeah.
probably answering questions
Yeah, I
way
know. Well,
ahead.
let's go back. Let's go back because you saying a whole lot of stuff. So let's go
Yeah,
back. So you, where you from? Chicago.
from Chicago,
Okay, born and raised.
born and raised, South
Got
Side,
it.
low end. The
Okay.
PCs, Prairie Courts. It's gone now, but for my Chicago people, y'all
Okay.
know what it is.
'Cause I don't know nothing about that. That's okay. But okay. So you start because I know that the clothing line, did that start first or did the podcast start first?
The clothing line started first.
So let's go back on that.
Mhm.
So you're a designer.
I am a designer.
Well, where in how'd you start that and where did that come from? Like y- you know, you designing clothes. How'd that start?
It actually started. I just like to create. Let me start off by saying that I
Hmm.
like to create, and I like to see a finished product, and I just like to just look at it. You know, just see it, just admire it, and be like, man, look what I've done. So,
Yeah.
um, clothing actually started. It was my cousin. He was into fashion, and
Hmm.
so my other cousin and I wanted to support the cousin that was into fashion. And so
Hmm.
what I did was I did all the legwork. I mean, I actually started the business, made it to a LLC. I got a sale tax ID number. I just set up the whole business structure. And
Okay.
so what I was telling them was that, hey, um, this is a business that could potentially grow big. I believe in it, and we can
Hmm.
actually quit our jobs. So we need to make sure we take this serious. seriously.
Mhm.
And I was the only one taking it seriously. So I gave them maybe like a couple months and I said, you know what, if these guys don't get it together, I'm just going to just branch off. And that's what I did. I branched off. I didn't want to give up on it because I had put so much time and effort into, building it. So I changed the name
Mhm.
um, to Free Fall Clothing, and I just started creating.
Okay.
And I
Mhm.
kind of want to add a little bit on it. So at the time, I know screen print is a big deal when people think of clothing line, but I wanted to get a little bit more custom with it. Shout out to uh, Rich God from Houston
Mhm.
because I was following him heavy, and I was intrigued how he would customize anything, how everything that he made, it was kind of like one of 10, like one of
Mhm.
12. So that's what got me wanting to get into the cut and sew. I wanted to create fabrics that people couldn't find everywhere.
Mhm.
So I did screen print, but I also did cut and sew.
So you were doing that yourself.
Um, Starting off, no. I
Okay.
was looking for seamstress, but
Mhm.
with any business, you can't have people doing the work and you don't have the knowledge.
Okay.
So, like I did reach out to a few people, and I stumbled across these brothers from Chicago. They're actually much younger than me, and I did get some sewing lessons. I paid them.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, because I had to know what I was talking about and what I was
Right.
looking for when it came to uh, cut and sew.
Mhm.
I had no idea about patterns. I had no idea about sewing. I had no idea about how much fabric I needed.
Hmm.
So what I did was I did my homework. I had to become a student. And then
Mhm.
once I became a student, then it's like, okay, now I know what I'm looking for because I was walking in, I flew to LA just by myself. I was GP. I met up with this guy I had been talking with that somebody linked together. I flew out there and it was just like a total disaster. And when he took me to this company and they manufacture clothing, but when I was sitting in there, I just felt dumb. I felt like
Mhm.
that I didn't know anything. I didn't know what they were talking about. And when they were asking me questions, I couldn't answer them. I couldn't answer them. So that moment right there was like a teachable moment. It was like, Jay, you don't know nothing,
Mhm.
and the look on their face showed that this Negro don't know anything. So So it was one of the moments like, man, I got to learn the craft. I mean, I can't just hop into this cut and sew to this fashion if I don't know anything about it.
Right. Okay. So you learned, and then you obviously, doing that. I've obviously, I follow you,
Hmm.
and the clothing line is super dope.
Hmm.
So you're still doing that, correct?
I'm still doing it, but it's been kind of put on the back burner. I've
Uh-huh.
been putting a lot of focus into the podcast,
Got it.
but I have been working it, just not as heavily as I was.
Got it. Okay. So, all right, well, let's talk about the podcast.
Let's do it.
Where in the world was the idea from going to fashion to a podcast? How
So
did that happen?
yeah. So remember when I just said not too long ago, I wanted to have a few things. I wanted to have certain things up under this umbrella of Lapeef.
Mhm.
Once I embraced Lapeef, I say, that name is just unique, it's classy.
Mhm.
People think it's
Mhm.
French, it's not French. According to my auntie,
What is it?
she got it out of an African book and it stood for brave warrior. That's
Okay.
to be determined because I did some research and homework and I couldn't find nothing on it. But we just gonna roll with that. So if anybody asks me what Lapeef means, it's my
Strong
middle name,
warrior.
but it's also means brave warrior.
Brave
So
warrior. Okay.
it is what it is. But um, I had actually reached out to somebody and I had an idea for a logo. I said I wanted to do a podcast and I
Mhm.
wanted it to be called Lapeef Let's Talk.
Okay.
And so I was sitting on it for had to be about 9 months to a year before
Mhm.
I actually started doing it. I usually come up with an idea. I usually put the blueprint together and
Mhm.
then I sit on it. But as I stated before, once I start something, I have to finish it.
Right.
So, I mean, that's where the podcast originated from.
So, when did you start the podcast? How long has it been?
I kind of lost track a little bit,
Mhm.
but I want to say roughly it's probably been about, before you guys know what it is today, probably about a year and a half.
A year and a half. Okay.
Yeah.
And who are the original people?
So, the original was me. Um, I
Okay. Mhm.
I was the original,
Okay.
but what I realized was that at the time I couldn't see myself, tackling it by myself. So,
Mhm.
um, one of my other guys, which you guys may know as Gino Black, I reached
Mhm.
out to him, and me and Gino Black talked, and we talked about putting the podcast together, and um, it was going to be Lapeef Let's Talk. So it was still my idea. He came on with it, and we started doing some recording. It was
Mhm.
just audio only.
Okay. What was the purpose of the podcast? Did you have a mind frame of this podcast? I want to
We
talk about this. What was the purpose?
we didn't have a purpose.
Mhm.
My idea when my vision of the podcast was that I didn't want a niche. I wanted to be able to discuss anything that I wanted to talk about, whether it was politics, finance, relationships,
Mhm.
marriages, whatever you name it. It's Lapeef Let's Talk. So that's the reason why the Let's Talk didn't really zero in on anything in particular. It's just like let's talk.
Yeah. Okay. So it was you and Gino,
Mhm.
and it was audio. So
Mhm.
then when did you decide to move to visual? And when did you, create your first group of folks? Where they come from,
Okay,
especially
so
where
um,
Anton come from?
well, that's a little down the tree, but I
Okay, go
still
ahead.
got a
I'm
little bit more
waiting.
story to tell. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's me and Gino. We at his crib just doing audio only. I wanted to do video, I just didn't know how to do it.
Mhm.
So when I say how to do it, meaning that I had to first get comfortable speaking in the mic and being
Mhm.
able to um, make sense in what we was talking about. We was
Mhm.
all over the place. I was looking for certain things, and when me and Gino was doing it, I'm like, you know what? This is probably not gonna work. And it wasn't that we couldn't do it. It was more so I was thinking about how people might perceive it. Like it could be better than this.
Mhm.
And so that's when I thought about my guy B Nix. So let me break down how I know B Nix. I've been
I
knowing
don't
B Nix.
care.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't care.
There you go.
Right.
So me and B Nix, I met B Nix in college. Went to the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign.
Mhm.
B Nix went to high school with my cousins and my friend, and a couple of my friends. They like a grade under me. And
Mhm.
so when B Nix came down to U of I, um, we was all like roommates. We was all roommates at one
You were
point in
roommates with
time.
B next?
Yeah, yeah. It was me,
Wow.
B Nix, my cousin Terry, and my cousin Shad. So we was
Mhm.
all roommates. And so I've been knowing B Nix since probably like 2002.
Mhm.
Kind of fast forward, like me and B Nix always remain cool. Um, he's family, and I'm also his son's godfather. So that's just how close me and B Nix is. So I had
Okay.
already knew B Nix personality. So
Yeah.
I felt as though B Nix would be a great addition to the podcast.
Mhm.
And and he was. One thing about B Nix is that he's firm in what he says and he stands on what he says. And
Mhm.
he's also hilarious. He's a great dude, great for the community, very intelligent. And I just watched his growth, man. So, B Nix, I felt that B Nix would take us to a different level, in which he did. So we started doing the podcast. We was on Apple, Spotify, um, Google, whatever platform is out there. I made sure that we were streaming on all platforms except for YouTube because of course it's just audio.
Right.
You want me to continue with the story?
Go ahead. I'm letting you rock.
Okay. So yeah, so we doing audio only. We kind of tempered around with video. I took my camera to Gino house because that's what we was recording out of. And Gino, we kind of tampered with the video, came out okay. And Gino suggested, because this was Gino's idea, so I had to give him credit, that we started a Facebook group. So
he was the mastermind of this infamous
yeah, it was his idea. Now
okay.
I had hopped off of Facebook. I was in Facebook when you could only get it when you was in college. So I hopped on Facebook. Somebody put me on Facebook in college. I hopped on and I was off of it for like 5 or 6 years. So I hopped back on the Facebook for this Facebook group. I said, okay, you know what? Why not? Let's try it. I always like to try things out, and if it work, it work. If it don't, it don't. So we started the Facebook group, and then we started to upload the audio portions or the links or something like that, so that the Facebook group grew. It was growing. It was 200 or 300 people at the time. We was just thrilled with that, like 200, 300 people rocking with us. So that's how that started, and it was just doing audio.
Okay. So when did you decide to do it visual? And when you did the visual, was it just you three?
So when I was listening to the podcast, when people were listening to the podcast, a couple people told me, "Oh, you guys need a female voice." And I said, "We don't need no female voice. We need a female voice for it's all men." I've seen successful men podcasts. I know that men can do it. It's a man point of view.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna force a woman's perspective within this podcast. So it was just kind of like, but then I thought about it. I was looking in the group and I seen that Tawana was real active. And something that I do look at is I do look at looks. I look at looks and I look at personality. And I'm looking to see if people are marketable, as well as talent. So those are things that I do look at when I look at people and seeing if they'd be a good fit. So the men I didn't really care about. I'm not really looking at the men, but I felt like if I brought a woman, I wanted the woman that was going to command some attention. So what people don't, she got to be pretty. Yeah.
Interesting.
So
okay.
What I thought about, I see you caught that compliment, but
I was doing it to me.
So what people don't know about Tawana is that me and Tawana went to grammar school together. She's about 2 grades under me. So, me and Tawana talked, but we didn't talk like that, but we talked. And then we also wound up going to college together. She wound up coming down there. I was a junior. She came in as a freshman. So, yeah, she was in college too. So, we spoke, we talked, but she was real active in a group. So, no, you know what? I messed up. Okay. Carmen was the first test.
It was another. Okay.
Yeah. So if you guys go way back into the videos, you'll see a young lady by the name of Carmen, and we went to college together. She went to college with me and B Nix as well, and Tawana. So we brought her on the show, and yeah, we rocked out. It was a decent episode, and that's what actually got my attention. Was like, you know what, having a woman is not too bad. I mean, it was pretty cool. And I think Carmen might have came on again. But one thing about a podcast and the podcast that I was doing was that you had to be dedicated. I mean, it's not really easy to do a podcast every single week and having everybody in line, because guess what? This was my baby and it wasn't everybody else's baby. So one thing that I can say is that for the most part, Gino was active. B Nick was a little bit more active and like, come on, let's rock out. So I think Carmen had a few things going on. She entertained it a little bit, but if I can remember, I think that she was just like, just kind of faded off. It wasn't really like
Mhm.
she said she wouldn't do it. And then that's when Tawana came on, and
Okay.
and and Tawana loved it. So I think we just kept bringing Tawana back, and then next thing you know, Tawana's on. So to answer your question about as far as when we do video, we started going live, which is video, only within the Facebook group. Only within the Facebook group.
Okay.
So we still not on YouTube. So we went video only within the Facebook group, and we just
Mhm.
kind of built that up and rocked out.
And it grew.
It was growing. I mean, we had people. It was more personal. It was more
Okay.
personal then. We didn't really have too many outside strangers, or we had very few, or we can kind of see, who these people are because we see them in a group. So it
Was it
was
more
just,
local, just Chicago folks?
it
Because
wasn't, I won't say that. I mean, it was more personal and close only because it might have been people that lived in Chicago and that don't live in Chicago anymore, or it might have
Mhm.
been friends of friends. And
Okay.
so it was still personal. We recognized the people when they came on, and it was cool.
Okay. So then that's where it started. So it was you, B Nix, Tawana, and was it Gino still?
Mm,
Or he
yeah.
kind of dropped. Okay.
It was actually, I'm trying to think. I feel like it's been so long ago, but it hasn't been. But
Right, because this is
um,
only a year and a half ago.
yeah, it was me, Gino, and I believe Tawana.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me when Gino dropped off and then you had the infamous Anton Daniels come on.
So Anton, actually,
Go Anton.
yeah, shout out to Anton. But I met Anton online. Online, we was
Mhm.
complete strangers. Actually, I stumbled across some of his videos on his original channel, and it was kind of motivational. They was cool. That
Mhm.
was just fun to watch. And that's when I think I started looking at different YouTube videos. I kind of looked at YouTube as like, my audible book.
Mhm.
So I would actually listen to videos and just tapping around. And I
Yeah.
think that we really connected because at the time he had a Jeep Wrangler and I had a Jeep Wrangler. And so we had some Jeep talk, just like a little small talk. Fast forward, Anton, I guess he was kind of watching what I was doing.
Mhm.
I guess via social media, um, and maybe on Facebook. He was kind of watching what I was doing. And if you know Anton does his research. He's a person that
He,
when he wants to find out information, he
he knows it
researches
all.
people. He researches, which a
Mhm.
lot of people do, but Anton in particular, he was researching me, and I had no idea. So Anton, I think I asked him about stocks, and so we had set up a time to have a phone conversation about stocks.
Mhm.
And Anton was a real cool dude, man. He wound up giving me some gems, a lot of gems that day. We was on the phone for about an hour and 20 minutes,
Mhm.
and I didn't. It wasn't rushed. Um, he answered all my questions, and he said, "You know what, man? It's my personal number. Anything you want to know, anything you need, anything that I failed at that can assist you, I want just hit me up and I'll just give you the
Yeah.
game on it." So
I
that's
think go
go ahead.
ahead. Well, no, I was saying that I think that's something that, he says it, but it's honest. Like Anton, he's just, I'll let you know. He's just wants people to succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
yeah, that's him. He's like, I'll get you, I'll put you on the game.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like he definitely left an impression because I spoke
Hmm.
about it to other people about. I said, man, this guy, because you don't really know too many people. At least I don't know. At least where I'm
Hmm.
from, that's willing to get information. You
Yeah.
got this complete stranger that wanted to assist me by giving me information that he knows that would benefit me. So
Hmm.
I appreciated that. And then fast forward some more, we had conversations. He was like, "Yeah, you want me to come on one day? Just let me know. I'll come on."
Hmm.
He's like, "I think you got something real special here." And I support. I drop some gems, whatever you need from me. So I brought Anton on, and the first time I brought Anton on, the people went crazy.